Rootstv Nigeria. My name is Oluwatobienito. Welcome to another episode of What Next Education. To discuss the challenges and way forward in the education sector in Nigeria, I have with me Ahanono Odinakachi. She is the Administration Manager of Civil Society Action on Education for All. She will be giving us her thoughts on the education sector and the steps taken so far to ensure basic education for children in Nigeria. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now tell us, what are the recent policies put in place to improve the education standard in Nigeria, putting the FCT in focus?
Yes, in terms of policies, we have the Child Rights Act and we have the UBE 2014 Act. Now, for SACEFA, we look at education policy holistically, not centered on a state. We make issues on education issues in Nigeria. Now, for FCT, it is the sole responsibility of the FCT SUBEB to do that. But from NGO, CSO's perspective, education in terms of gender, religion, ethnicity is supposed to be made free and fair for every Nigerian child.
Okay. So, do you think the federal government has done well with the steps taken so far to provide basic education to out-of-school children?
Well, it would be out of content if I said no, but there is more to be done. Because right now, before we have 10.5 million children out of school, but presently is 13.5. You can see there is a huge gap. So governments need to do more. Not only government, other stakeholders. There is need for all hands to be on deck. There is need to declare an emergency in education for this to be taken care of. To have 13.5 million children out of school, what are the population of Nigeria if this number of children are out of school? You know that it's a very big gap. In as much as I will agree with you that yes, governments are trying their best, but there is need for more action to be taken to ensure these children goes back to school. Despite the intervention from donor agencies, there is need for increased funding in education. There is need for more infrastructures in education. There is need for more quality teachers, and to ensure teachers' incentives are being increased to be able to retain these teachers in school so that these children will be impacted positively. But when teachers are not well remunerated, they will not want to be there. If there are opportunities for better job, they will leave. But if they are well remunerated and being respected in the community, because when you look at it recently, you find out, you go to school and ask children, do you want to be a teacher? Nobody wants to be a teacher because of the way teachers are being treated in Nigeria. So there is a need for training and retraining. There is need for more funding in education. There is need for more infrastructures, especially at the basic level. Because if we get it right at the basic level, definitely we'll get it right at the tertiary.
Okay, now the federal government of Nigeria has advocated jail penalty for parents of children who are not in school. Is this the way to go, looking at the journey so far?
Holistically, yes, to an extent, and no, to an extent. So, yes, that would have been possible if government has made basic education free.
Okay.
But in terms of Nigerian, basic education is not free. there are a whole lot of hidden charges that stopped these children from going to school. There is no parents in her right senses that wants her child to be at home. Every parent wants her children to be in school. But when there is no provision for them to retain these children in school, there is need to withdraw them back. So we are calling on federal government. The issue of jail penalty, what have you done to ensure that these parents are well financially before this jail penalty is being implemented? Secondly, you should consider the psychosocial effect it will have on children that you took their parents to jail for 1 month because from the UBEC Act, either you pay a fine of 2,000 naira or you'll be in jail for 1 month. Now, if you take these parents out of their family, out of their children and put them in jail, do you consider the social effect on those children before that is being considered? Secondly, have you put all the necessary infrastructures, all the necessary amenities in school before you consider taking such act? So these are two-way things that the stakeholders need to sit together, deliberate over it, and know if it is the right step to take. But to me, it will only be right from civil society perspective, it will only be right if government do what they're supposed to do to put the school in a good, proper shape. And any parents that now default, we cannot implement such rights. But now, I think it is not the right thing.
Okay. Now the challenges, what do you think are the challenges of education in Nigeria? Looking at the intervention funds that has been given in time past and the results that have come out to that this has also brought out, do you think it's justifiable that they continue to receive more funds when there are little or no results to show for it?
There are a whole lot of challenges in education sector, but I can categorically state that the major problem of education or challenge of education, yes, we might say funding, because every sector needs fund to take care of one thing or the other. But the little funding Nigerian has budgeted, which is 7.5% for education, how is this fund being utilized? Is there proper monitoring for this fund? Yes, we are advocating for 15% of this fund, but we want CSOs and other stakeholders to ensure that even the 7.5% that has been budgeted is well utilized. Secondly, we have government bureaucracy. And lastly, corruption. From my experience as a civil society person, even if government budgets the whole Nigerian budget to education, there will still be a gap if corruption and bureaucracy is not properly taken care of.
Okay, now having listed all this, where do you see Nigeria's education sector in about 5 years to come?
Yeah, I don't want to sound as if there is no hope. There is still hope if we decide to do what we expect to do and do it right. Presently, in 2019, we are still battling on issue of infrastructures in school, low evaluation of teachers, low quality in teachers, no wash facilities in school, and this is 2019. Stakeholders, majority don't even know what the SDG is talking about. So looking at the pace we are going, if nothing is done fast, I am saying that in the next 5 years, we will still remain where we are. Despite the donor interventions in Nigeria, you can see that there is little or no improvement, especially in the Northeast, where most of this funding are being taken to. So we call on the stakeholders to declare a state of emergency in education sector if we really want to get it right or see a little impact in the next 5 years. But the way we are going, if these things are not put in place, we will still remain where we are even in the next 50 years.
Okay. Now, how does your organization engage the Universal Basic Education Board to ensure that there is free and quality education across the country, especially for children at the basic level?
Yes, from inception of UBEC, SACEFA have been helping in the formulation of policies, programs, and project implementation. Now, all the UBEC projects, both at the state level and the national level, SACEFA ensure that there is proper monitoring and accountability. And to be honest with you, UBEC has been involving us in all their project implementation. So during their self-help projects, we did the monitoring. During their matching grant, even the last year they did a national personnel audit. SACEFA was part of the team that supervised, that monitor that project to ensure that we have the right data in Nigeria when it comes to issue of basic education.
Okay. Your organization has over 600 members cut across the 36 states of Nigeria. Now, we see that the North contributes a larger percentage to out-of-school children in Nigeria. So now that you have come to advocate for free and quality education in Nigeria, how are you trying to ensure that out-of-school children are taken off the streets, because we have the Almajiris issue that is hitting them in the core parts of the North, where children go out and beg for food, beg for money. They have no source of livelihood at a tender age. So what is the organization doing to ensure that, to change the tide?
Yeah, SACEFA is really doing a lot in that aspect. Apart from the Almajiris, there are the IDPs, that because of the insurgents. That's why the increase in out-of-school children. So from our NEI project, which is Northern Education Initiative project, and our ECR, Education Crisis Response. Now, what we basically do is to ensure that in as much as these children are not in school, because one thing is to be in school, another thing is to have quality education. So because of the insurgents in the Northeast, there is this informal school that we are doing in the Northeast. These children are being trained in skills acquisition. Those of them that did well, they will be established. Now in informal school, we have centers where these children are being trained. Those of them that did well will still now be mainstreamed into formal school. And also into education in emergency, SACEFA happens to be a voice on that. That is at the national level. So we still put our voice with other stakeholders to ensure that there is provision for these children until maybe the insurgents will stop, or because the way I look at it is like political. It's something that might not stop very soon, but in as much as it is there, is a huge problem. It's not something that can be solved now, but we will strive with other stakeholders to ensure that these children are taken out of the street.
And lastly, what advice do you have for the federal government of Nigeria? What should it take a cue from? What is lacking? What should be improved upon as a non-governmental organization with the vision to help restructure the education sector?
From my advice for Nigerian government, especially to the President Muhammadu Buhari, is to declare an emergency in education sector and let educationists take over the responsibility of schools. Education in Nigeria should be given the first priority and no lip service should be paid. Let there be structures on ground for these children. Whatever money they are budgeting, let there be increase in education budgeting, because every other sector still boils down to education. If the funding is increased despite the corruption, there will be a huge difference. Let teachers incentives. Most teachers are posted in the remote area with little or no incentives. There should be need for teachers incentives, and there is need for training and retraining of these teachers. Despite there is a standard for government schools, you must have the basic, which is the NCE, before you are employed. They should stop politicizing education and do the right thing.
I would most sincerely thank you for your time. And I have been speaking to the Administration Manager of Civil Society Action on Education for All, Ahanonu Odinakachi, who has shared her thoughts on the education sector. She has also given a word of advice to the federal government of Nigeria to declare a state of emergency in this sector with immediate effect. And also, because some of the intervention program that has been given in the education has had little or no impact in the education sector. She believes that if this is done, it might give a restructuring process for the sector. That's it on our show today on What Next Education. I am Oluwatobi Enitan for Rootstv Nigeria.